green light.
Yeah.
Have you been, Leanne?
On behalf of the Greater Detroit District Board of Directors and Reverend Alicia Williams, the board chair, and Ken Dowd, along with Ruby Anderson, our district lay leaders, I greet you. My name is Daryl Toddy, the district superintendent. Wherever you are in one of our 5 locations, you are in for some spectacular training. Discipleship is important. And I thank God that you are here to participate in the gracefully serving with unconditional love. You know, our training is important. And as we continue to move forward in the district with caring for one another, serving in mission and ministry, I encourage you to continue. Thank God that we have several options, whether you are in person or again, virtually. I want you to enjoy the day. A lot has gone into planning. Our facilitators and those other coaches that have joined us have been specifically identified for the needs that you outlined. Again, I'd like to welcome you and say thank you for being here on today. May God bless you.
Welcome. It's good to see everybody here. I'm Pastor Phil, and I'm the host pastor for today. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, just to say thank you for coming out. Lately, the weather has been kind of a puzzle in our lives as to whether things could happen. And so I know there are probably people that are still without power in our area, so that's made this extra challenging. Luckily, we have power and can make sure that this occurs. So again, if you need anything at all, just let me know, or let somebody from our church here know what's going on. So without any other any delays, we've got a lot of good things to hear about today. Deacon Sue is here from Cass Ministries, and we're really fortunate to have you here. I've had a long-running just admiration for what's been going on at Cass. For many years, I would bring confirmation students from a very, very long distance to see what went on, and to have just a very small moment of time where our students could participate and make sandwiches and see what was happening. And for them, it was such an eye-opening time. But you know, if you've ever been a Sunday school teacher, or you've ever participated in the education of children, you know that the teachers and the adult leaders always seem to learn more than the students, and that's always been my experience as well. So I just am so grateful that I can have this time here today, not just to hear about Cass, but the other things and the other ministries that you're going to share with us about. So thank you for coming. Please come and let us know more about what it is that we're here to learn about.
I am Sue Pethoud. I'm a deacon that serves at Cass Community Social Services mostly, and Cass Community United Methodist Church. I'm a part of the district mission committee, and they asked for someone to do this. And so I thought, okay, I'm pretty appropriate for that. So here I am. We are ready to get started with my slides. Maybe. There we go. So we're going to talk about mission that's here locally in the Detroit area. We're going to talk about mission opportunities that are in more southeastern Michigan in general. Then we're going to expand to things that are farther away, nationally, internationally as well. So a little bit about myself. I grew up Episcopalian, was a lifelong churchgoer. In the Episcopal church that I attended in Flint, you went to church on Sunday, you heard from the pastor, who we called a minister, and you went home. If you were in the choir, you practiced on Saturday, you sang on Sunday, the end. You didn't do anything churchy outside. You didn't live your faith outside of church. Church was Sunday morning, the end. When I was a young mother, we were moving around a lot. My husband was in the military. We settled in Brighton after he was done with that, and I, of course, went to the Episcopal church. And they took my kid. I walked in the door, they took my 3-year-old and went away. And I had a hard time with that. I didn't know, it was my first time there. Who are these people? They took my child. I'm supposed to be here in worship, and my kid is not. So that didn't work for me. And my husband had grown up in Brighton. He said, why don't you try the Methodist church? They have a good choir. I had sung in choir since I was in the 2nd grade. So, okay, I tried the Methodist church. And the message that first day was this. And this is from the message. Then he will turn to the goats, the ones on his left, and say, get out, worthless goats. You are good for nothing but the fires of hell. And why? Because I was hungry, you gave me no meal. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was homeless, you gave me no bed. I was shivering, and you gave me no clothes. Sick and in prison, and you never visited. Then those goats are going to say, Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or homeless or shivering or sick or in prison and didn't help? He will answer them, I'm telling the solemn truth. Whenever you failed to do one of these things to someone who was being overlooked or ignored, that was me. You failed to do it to me. Matthew 25, it's the very end of that story. I was brought up to not fail. Fail was not an option. In school, A's were the only thing that was acceptable, and the thought of failing at all, let alone failing God, was not something that was going to sit very well with me. So I got involved in the Methodist Church. I started supporting their mission things because people were going out and doing stuff, right? And then my son, that 3-year-old, who'd now grown up in the Methodist Church, went on his first summer mission trip. Within that church, that was what was expected. You hit 9th grade, you went to Appalachia Service Project, everybody did it, you just went. And of course he did. And he came back and said, Mom, you have to go next year. I had no construction skills, zero, none, zero. When my husband built stuff around the house, I cleaned up. That was my skills. And so I said, no, that's not for me. All year long, that young man twisted my arm. Finally, when it was almost the deadline, he said, Mom, you have to go. We at least need someone to make the sandwiches and sweep up the mess. So I went. And that was a life-changing experience for me. So mission was what brought me to where I am. I was a teacher for almost 30 years. I taught middle school mostly, a little high school, math mostly, a little biology, and I quit. I just quit. I struggled with that for a little while because at 29 and a half years of experience, that was not real practical. 30 years get you full benefits, right? So it wasn't practical to quit right away, but the state stepped in and said, guess what? You are an expensive teacher. You cost the district a lot of money. If you retire now, we'll pay you extra. I said, sign me up. So I did, and I went to seminary, and I started to get more involved with the youth there. I called Reverend Fowler at Cass and said that first Tuesday that school was going to start, and I wasn't going to, because I'd been doing it since I was 5, right? I called and said, can you keep me busy? I don't know you at all, but I know that you host mission people, people that volunteer. Can you just keep me busy for the day? I'm sure she thought I was a nutcase. But I went, and they kept me more than busy. And at the end of the day, she said, so how was it? I said, can I come back next week? So all through my seminary training, once a week, right before graduation, she hired me for that day a week. She said we could at least pay your gas. Okay. That was in March. By June, it was 3 days a week. By Christmas, it was a full-time position. I was commissioned the following year, and I've been there ever since. So that's my background and why mission is so important to me, because that's what brought me to where I am. I don't tell most people that, but now you all know my story, right? Okay, back to my slides. So there's two kinds of ministry and talking about mission. Ministry to and ministry with. Ministry to is what we're all used to. Somebody comes, they tell you they have this wonderful charity that you need to give to, and you write the check and you put it in the mail. Great. Or so-and-so, this ministry is collecting food this week. The mail carriers, the letter carriers, it's their food drive. So you put a couple of cans in your mailbox and you've helped, right? Well, that's all good. That's all good. But ministry with is much more important. Standing alongside people that are in need and working along with them. And if you'll read this, I'll read it to you if I can. It's kind of small. Ministry to is mission and ministry programs that merely give to or do for people. These programs can be highly efficient in distributing materials and resources to address immediate basic needs of food, water, clothing, and shelter, like hurricane relief, right? You send stuff, they send buckets, life is good. However, they can also create a hierarchy of givers over receivers, fostering dependency that treats givers as saviors, having all the resources and answers, and the receivers as the objects of charity. Nobody wants to be the object of your charity. Yeah, it's really good when some natural disaster happens. We fill flood buckets, we fill all those other kind of buckets that UMCOR has us fill, and those are good, immediate need things to take care of. But it doesn't take care of the problem. That's too many. In contrast, ministry with seeks not only to meet immediate needs, but also to foster mutual relationships where all participants are met with dignity, engaged in shared leadership, and grow together in God's love. It's a challenge for all of us to prioritize people over programs, relationships over resources, and development of long-term solutions over quick fixes. And that's what most of these things that we're going to talk about today are involved with. Relationship building, making people understand that you're not there to be their savior. You're not the white knight in shining armor coming to fix things. You're there to help make it better overall and to figure out what the long-term fixes are. I love the United Methodist Church for that reason. This talks about John Wesley and early Methodists and how they did exactly what we're talking about. Cass Church, get it, is taking 20 people to do a Wesley tour in April. We're a little poor church, and we have 20 people going. It's going to be great. But my husband, who's a lifelong Methodist, is now reading a John Wesley history book so that he's ready for this trip. And he said, do you know, that's what this was built on. Yep. Service to those in need. This is from Mike Slaughter, who is a pastor in Ohio, and it came across on my Facebook feed about 3 weeks ago, and I thought I have to put this into this presentation. So I have to read it again. We have dumbed down what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. Our churches consist of members who have little to do with following Jesus. We have turned church into a noun, a stationary building that we visit once a week or maybe once a month for many of us, instead of a living, functioning, working community of Jesus following believers. The church has redefined faithfulness as simply showing up for worship, making a donation, and then going back home to do our regular lives. Instead of being disciples, we demonstrate an undiluted devotion to Jesus as Lord. We have domesticated and watered down Jesus' true identity. Michael Slaughter. That's what I'm seeing in churches today. You go to church, you do your thing on Sunday morning, you might work in soccer games in there because, of course, your kids have soccer practice on Sundays, or maybe games, and they might be at 9 o'clock in the morning, so you skip church altogether, and then you move on. But that's not what it's about. That is not what life in the church is about. So, let's get down to it. And I will give you a handout with all these links when we're done. And those of you that are watching virtually, the link is one of your click-ons to get all of these emails so you don't have to madly write them down. So these are some of the local mission opportunities. The first one, Redford Brightmoor Initiative. It's located in a very poor section of Detroit. They have the Brightmoor Free Store. Shoppers come in on the days the stores are open. They're assisted in preparing a hot lunch. Volunteers can come and actually help run the store, help serve the lunch, help cook the lunch, and in the neighborhood they do home repair. In the summer they have a community garden where people can come and just weed and water and pick and plant and whatever you need to do in the summer in a garden, you know. Once a week you show up and you help. The office at Redford Brightmoor is an easy email to get, office@redfordbrightmoorinitiative.org. They take volunteers all year long. The Noah Project is in downtown Detroit. It's out of Central United Methodist Church. They serve roughly 300 lunches a day to homeless folks. The lunches are packed mostly by churches, but not always. Sometimes Girl Scout troops or Boy Scout troops or other civic organizations. You pack them one week, you get them down to the church on Monday, and they distribute. There's no direct contact for the most part at the Noah Project, though they also accept a few volunteers that will work one-to-one with the folks that they serve. But it's something that many churches do on a Sunday morning. They set up all of the lunch stuff outside of the sanctuary, and as folks are leaving, they put those lunches together. They go in a car and get delivered to Noah. Motown Mission is actually out of Metropolitan United Methodist Church. It used to be at least. I think that they're actually shifting to staying at Central because of cost. But it's a work mission trip in the communities in Detroit. They go to someplace different every day. Many times one of those days is at Cass. It's mostly youth and young adults. There's a $50 per day registration. If you stay for the whole week, I think it's reduced a little bit. But they stay at Central right in downtown, so there's lots of walking activities to do, baseball games to attend, theater to attend. Again, working throughout the community, mostly home repair and like blight reduction, trimming of trees, clearing sidewalks, making communities safer. Joy Southfield has a community development center. It supports the residents in the area and the businesses in the area. It concentrates on three things. Volunteers can be involved in home improvement and neighborhood revitalization, the same thing that Motown Mission really does. And then they help at a farmer's market weekly. They also have a clinic. Hands with Detroit. Hands with Detroit has been going on for probably 10 years now. It was one of the first things I got involved in when I came and started working here in Detroit. It has always been, traditionally has been, on the first Saturday in October. In the beginning, we had sites all over the city that we went to. In the middle, they concentrated on one neighborhood or another, and now we're kind of going back to those multiple sites, except that for the last 2 times, as we ramp back up, it's all been at Cass, which has been wonderful for us. We're switching gears and moving Hands for Detroit to April, because it seems as though we are always competing with football games and soccer games and whatever else is happening in the beginning of the fall. So we're going to try the end of April. We didn't want to get too close into May because then, of course, you've got graduations and weddings and all of that. So the first spring Hands for Detroit, again, is at Cass. It will be on April 29th. The sign-up hasn't gone out yet, though I suspect it will be happening within the next couple of weeks. Most of the same activities that we did in the fall will be available at Cass again, and we'll talk about all the things we're going to do at Cass when we get there. But that's a district-wide thing. One day, bring people from your churches and come and help. We will most likely grow that in the next few years to sites throughout the city. And here we are at Cass. So Cass is my baby, and I'm going to talk more about that because I know more about it. Cass does 4 things: food, housing, healthcare, and jobs. 700,000 meals a year come out of our kitchen. Let that sink in for just a minute. 700,000 meals come out of the kitchen. We house roughly 300 folks a night, more than that in the winter because we have a couple of seasonal programs that will end at the end of March. They go from the 1st of November to the end of March. We have 2 outlets for healthcare. One is our program for developmentally disabled, up to about 125. We're recovering from the pandemic there. We're up to about 70 folks now, though we have a capacity of about 125. Adults with developmental disabilities, Monday through Friday, in a skill building, job building kind of program. We also run the Cass Clinic, which actually comes out of Cass Church and works through Wayne State Medical School to supply doctor visits for people without insurance, for people that live on the street. They get medication that lasts them for a week, and that forces them to come back the next Saturday. So they get follow-up care. So that's a wonderful thing. We have green jobs for folks that live with us or are part of the Developmentally Disabled Center. We now have 25 tiny homes that are finished and ready for occupancy. I think we have 4 to fill right now. We're developing a commercial strip in that neighborhood as well. Prior to the pandemic, 7,000 volunteers a year. That's a lot of volunteers. I coordinate all of that. Some come for a few hours, some come once a week, some come for a whole week. We had one gentleman come from Wisconsin on a VIM program. He stayed for 6 months. Get a load of this, he was 87 years old. He came and stayed with us and lived with us for 6 months and did everything handyman kind of stuff around the agency. He caught us up from not having volunteers all through the pandemic. 6 months, 87 years old. If he can do it, anybody can. Judy comes once a week and helps in the finance department. So we have lots of things to work on. It could be building repair, it could be office work, it could be anything in between. It could be helping to make some of those 700,000 meals a year. If you stay overnight at Cass, it's $30 a person. If you come just for the day, there's no cost. Why would we charge you to come and help us? The $30 a night is only for the people that stay with us overnight. It covers your food, your lodging, and the materials that you use while you're there. Other things in Detroit that aren't United Methodist related. Gleaners is the first one that came to my mind. They get food donations from everywhere, from grocery stores, from manufacturers, from people, from like the Girl Scout troop that did the food drive in your neighborhood last week. That they get food from everywhere. It all needs to be sorted. It all needs to be stocked in boxes and distributed to people like Cass, who then use that food to help offset their budget costs. But that's a great place to go to volunteer. They'll take you from the age of about 8 or 10 up until you can't volunteer anymore. You just need to contact them. You could go for an hour or two. You could go for the whole day. Some people actually do the delivering for them. There's lots and lots of volunteer opportunities at Gleaners. Forgotten Harvest is the same idea, except it's mostly from restaurants. So it involves going to restaurants or perhaps to U of M Stadium and picking up what was left from the concession stand. Those kind of things where there is food that's already cooked that has to be used right away. And so that is out there. It's in every county in southeastern Michigan, there's a Forgotten Harvest. So that's a place that especially people that can drive, that don't mind driving while they volunteer, it is for them. Greening of Detroit happens only in the growing season. They plant trees, they trim trees, they mow lawns, they make the neighborhood look better. So this one involves people that can be physically active because you're doing the mowing and planting the trees. So this one's not for everyone, but they are all over the place. They have urban gardens downtown. They have urban gardens throughout the city of Detroit that need weeders and waterers and pickers in the summer. Alternatives for Girls is one that you don't hear about very often. It's a nonprofit that works with girls that are homeless or high risk and that need direction. Kids that have been part of domestic violence or teen pregnancy are served by that group. They need mostly women that are compassionate and can give them a better road to their future. They also collect clothing and food and anything that can help them out in that respect. Capuchin Soup Kitchen takes volunteers, obviously, to work in the kitchen. Again, you come in the morning, you help prepare the food, you serve the food, you sort and stock their food donations. That one's pretty self-explanatory. They also have an urban farm, which seems to be where everyone is going, so that we can have fresh fruit and vegetables in our kitchens. COTS is one of the first places I volunteered when I started out in mission life. It's smaller, at least the building that we were in was smaller, but again, it's the same idea. They collect donations. They need to have someone that can sort the clothing that gets donated and all of the other stuff that gets donated, and working in the kitchen to feed those that are staying with them. They also do some career counseling and economic counseling, so people that have that kind of background are sought after there. Focus Hope is a Detroit-based, non-denominational, nonprofit, all of that. They provide education and job training for underrepresented minorities and others in the community. You can pack, again, food boxes. Almost every group here that we're talking about has food boxes that go out into the community. You can sort donations. You can assist seniors that need help shopping. You can deliver food or help in the child care center. They call it an early learning center. It's like a Head Start program. All of those things are available at Focus Hope. And then we'll talk about some things that are still in Michigan, but not in Detroit. These all have a United Methodist connection. Asbury Development Corporation in Flint, they have farms, and they they bring folks in to help in the farms. The kids from this area could make a day trip there and help with all of that. They have like a farmer's market. They also do meals for the folks in the neighborhood, but again, it's mostly a food thing. God's Country Cooperative Parish is in the Upper Peninsula. That's more than a day trip. It will take you most of the day to get there. It's in Newberry. They do home repair for the most part. Randy Hildebrand is in charge of that in the UP. They have, because you imagine the UP, everything's far apart. So the houses that they work on are sometimes 45 minutes or an hour away from their center. So you have to be willing to travel there because it's just vast in the UP. But it's mostly home repair. It's a summer project thing for youth and adults that are into home repair. 1 Week, 1 Street is in the Saginaw area. They choose one street to concentrate on in the summer. They do house painting and home repair and yard cleanup and all of that on whatever street they've chosen for the year. Youth groups stay in local churches. They get fed by the folks that are from the church. They go out with their lunches. They're in the community. There's just one concentrated week on one street in the Saginaw area to make the neighborhood a little bit better. I would consider taking a group there. That's a good one. Baldwin Center in Pontiac is not as active as it used to be, but it is still up and going. They take volunteers. That would be a day thing. They have a clothing closet. They do meals. They have a holiday store, and that's in Pontiac. That used to be United Methodist affiliated. I think it's kind of pulled away from that as well. South Lansing Ministries in Lansing, it is United Methodist affiliated. Every aspect, transportation of people, sorting and stocking donations, distributing food, hygiene items. They help folks understand computers, so they need folks that can come and help older folks understand how to communicate with computers. South Flint Soup Kitchen is another one, again, food-oriented, food boxes packing, prepare meals. They were big in the water stuff when Flint was going through the big part of their water issues. That's where the water got distributed, so hugely involved in that. It's calmed down a little bit as they replace some of the pipes, but they're still passing out water and feeding the neighborhood. This one is unique. They don't even have a website. A group of people from Calvary United Methodist Church in Flint decided that they needed to help their community. So they have come up with 1 week during the summer. This year it's in June. The cost to participate is about $200. You go and you stay at Calvary and other churches in the area. And again, it's like the 1 week, 1 street kind of operation, but in Flint instead of Saginaw. And it's very centrally located at Calvary, and it's just lay people in the church that decided this needed to happen, and so they made it happen. Why they don't have a website, I don't know, but you call the number and you can talk to the people. Things that are outside of Michigan, but still United Methodist. And this one is for people of all ages, but mostly those that aren't young. You go to Midwest Distribution Center, and this is where the flood buckets go. When we make flood buckets or whatever other kind of buckets we make, they go to the Midwest Distribution Center. They also fix bikes there. They do the PEDs there. They repair old sewing machines there. Obviously not things that young folks could do, right? I don't see a high school kid sitting down and fixing a sewing machine. But you can go there. They have places for your camper. They have bunkhouses where you can stay. There's hotels that are local if you don't want to do that. $12 a day is the cost for material and your food while you're there. Lodging is more if you decide to stay there. But it's not very far away. It supplies stuff for the entire connection, and so it's a great place to go. This is in Ohio, the Nehemiah Mission in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a food distribution situation as well, which is what many of these are, but also building maintenance and programs for the neighborhood kids. It's probably something for youth and young adults to do as opposed to adults, older adults. A summer mission trip would probably be focused here. They work Sunday through Friday. It includes all your meals. It's a little more expensive, $439 a person. Epworth Center, also in Ohio, similar ministry. Building repair and food distribution. They concentrate mostly on the building repair. This one's a little cheaper, $315 a week, also Sunday through Friday. It includes everything, meals, supplies, materials, lodging, all of that. It's kind of campy for young folks, again, young adults, youth, for a summer mission trip. Spirit Lake is a little different. It's not so youth-oriented. It's in the Dakotas, in North Dakota. It's an Indian reservation supported by the United Methodist Church. A big ministry center there that over the last 20 years has grown immensely. You learn a little bit about Native American culture while you're there, participate in some of the events that they have while you're there, and assist in the similar ways, building repair, food distribution, meal preparation, and all of that. Mountaintop is in Tennessee. It's a common place for the youth from this area to travel to in the summer. There's 3 or 4 places in the Appalachian Mountains that youth from the Michigan area tend to go to. It's less than a day trip, so it's easy to get to. This one's $405 a week this year, Sunday through Saturday this time. Again, home repair, working with the youth and the children in the area, and food distribution. Redbird is in the same general area, this time in Kentucky. It's the same kind of thing. This one is not just in the summer, it's year-round. They take adults during the fall and winter, and the spring they take young people in the summer. The church that I come from, Brighton First, goes to Redbird every year. It's a mission trip that I went on after working at Cass for quite some time, which was kind of a weird experience. Now, instead of running the show, I was a participant. Again, home repair, food distribution. This has a school that's attached to it, so you can work with the kids in the school. And all year long, they package boxes for the families that they know will come at Christmas time needing things for Christmas. So as the toys and the winter clothes come in, they know their families, and they start packing ahead of time. And when it's rainy, they have something for you to do then as well. This guy handed me a grocery bag full of coupons to cut when it was pouring out that day. ASP is where I first went on mission. Like I said, with my son, he twisted my arm. I finally went. I went as the sandwich maker and the sweeper-upper the first year and led the trip the next 10 years. We took 50 kids a year to ASP. It was life-changing for me and them. $350 a week at this point, Sunday through Saturday. It is home repair, plain and simple home repair. There's no food involved, there's no other things involved. It is just home repair, warmer, safer, drier, for people that live in houses that you and I would just tear down. they fixed them. We replaced the under joists of 2 houses over the times that I was going because the foundation boards had cracked. So that, around here we would just demolish the house, right? That's not what they do there. And internationally, through United Methodist Volunteers in Mission, Liberia, and Haiti, there are also opportunities. We found Clarence, our 87-year-old volunteer, through UMVIM, that I get the newsletters all the time and never, I guess, really saw this, but there's this project called Volunteers in Mission, Mission Volunteers, that go out into the world for an extended period of time, and they're usually older adults, not always, but usually. He has been all over the world as a mission volunteer. Latvia was the last place he was before he was in Detroit. Latvia's not really on my bucket list, but maybe. And you do whatever they need you to do. Volunteers in Mission sends people all over the country. If you go on their site, there are tons and tons and tons of places that you can go. They're the ones that organize the hurricane relief when Texas or New Orleans or whoever down in the south has to deal with hurricanes. We also have a connection with the Methodist Church in Liberia. About 5 years ago now, maybe 4, again, Cass Church sent a group to Liberia. We took solar power to a school there and put that up for them so that now they have computers. They had no computers before. How do you teach kids without computers in 2023? You can't. So they now have solar power to run their computers. We also built lunch tables for them. But also Haiti. Haiti is not always a safe place to go, so you have to be careful with Haiti. But we're also in partnership with them, and it's a place to contact through UMVIM to go there. Okay. Is that enough information? So let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning, the things that are around Detroit, and what are your questions about the Methodist things in the Detroit area that I might or might not be able to answer? None. I was that good.
The Hands of Detroit project, April 29th,
Mm-hmm.
Has that information gone out?
It has not.
Okay.
The question is, has the Hands for Detroit information for April 29th gone out? It has not. We're just finalizing all of that, and I believe that Ken will put that up soon. He's working on all the reservations for these workshops right now, one thing at a time.
This is available now for those
the
that
mic
are
is
watching
available?
online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sue, I've been checking the YouTube link, and there are no questions there, but I will make a comment that when we're all done, there is a slide right after your slide, Sue, that lists all the links that are available online for people online or for anyone in the audience here that wants to refer to it later. It is available electronically also, in addition to your hard copy.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, no questions about things in Detroit. Okay. Back to my slides. All right, things that are not United Methodists that are in Detroit.
I have an additional question. What are the things that are not being done in our area? Our church had a list of when people show up here, how can we guide them? And it was really old and it wasn't up to date. And so last mission team meeting, we put 3 people to the task of trying to update that, call other churches, figure out what they have. And they're working on that now. Next week at our meeting, find out how they did. And I kind of checked in with one of them. They're really having some success in getting that list. They'll love your material, by the way. Thank you, thank you. So that'll help. But the goal is not simply to get our list all together, but the goal is to try to find out what is being done so we can find out what is not being done, because our church really would love to figure out what we maybe should be doing and what our mission here might be to fill spots that really could be more a part of our calling. So do you have any kind of ready kind of thoughts about where there are gaps that you might guide us as churches to where we might not duplicate, but might fill some spots?
So the biggest question that I get that we don't take care of at CAS, and I don't know that there are anybody out there that does, first month's rent and security deposits for folks that are ready to move out of the shelter system and into an apartment. That isn't always available. I know heating and utility assistance is available through the different utilities, but those are the two biggest phone calls that I get. However, Livingston County, which is where I lived for 30 years, the churches in Livingston County have figured it out, and each church supplies something. This church supplies gas cards, and this church supplies food, and this church supplies baby items, and they have gotten all together. Now, obviously, Livingston County it's about the same size, but it's not the same population as Oakland County. But there's a consortium of churches in Livingston County that has already figured this out. So perhaps that's somebody to contact, is just a Livingston County United Methodist Church, to see how they do it. I know that Brighton has a closet for foster kids, for parents that get the new foster kid in that may show up with an outfit, the one that they're wearing. So they have a closet for that. Another church, again, does the gas cards. Another church does food. So that would be a resource, would be a church in Livingston County. Call them and find out how do they do it. Because why reinvent the wheel, right? Other questions about what we've talked about?
So Sue, before you move on to that next piece, let's see, 1, 2. Before you move on to the next piece, thank you very much. Wonderful piece. Pastor Friedrich, his question about connecting to district activities in local churches, this is a critical piece that he's raising. One of the things that our district committee on missions, which is led by Sung Yu, and Reverend Pethoud is a member of that committee, we are attempting to connect with every mission committee in local churches across the district. There have been emails and things that have gone out to local churches trying to connect you with the district mission committee. That is the key connection point. And so if you are listening to me today, can you connect with the district office? If you can't connect with Sung Yu, who is the chair of the district committee, but Reverend Pethoud could lead you to that district committee. We need to know who in your local church do we need to connect with in order to get this information that Reverend Pethoud has already given to us and to connect on a district-wide basis. And so that question from Reverend Friedrich was critical. Thank you.
Sure, and let me add even to that. What the mission committee is trying to do is to come up with, we now have a page on the district website. There's a mission tab at the top. We're just getting started with developing that, so there's not much there right now, but there will be. We're developing what we're calling a missions catalog, so that you all know from every church what the church in the next town is doing. So that will be there. That's our goal for 2023, is to have all of that collected. But like Reverend Toddy said, we're having a hard time connecting with the mission folks from every church. They don't always get back to us on emails. They don't always answer phone calls. So we're trying desperately to make all of that happen so that it's all in one place, so that everybody knows what everyone is doing. Okay, Sharon, I think you had a question.
So we appreciate the resources that you have shared with us. I want you to please speak a little bit more about the tiny houses. This is an opportunity. I was in Grosse Pointe, and I would coordinate donations because at this time we're remodeling kitchens and bathrooms, and there's an opportunity for all of those things to make a difference in someone's life. Would you just share a little more?
So Sharon didn't have the mic, so let me tell you what she's asked. She says, talk about tiny homes, which I will. Many people are remodeling their own homes right now, and some of that stuff can come to CAS to help with the tiny homes. So those of you that don't know, in 2016 we built our first tiny home. The tiny homes go from, we CAS, so this is a CAS thing, go from 225 square feet to about 450 square feet. The folks that live in them pay $1 a square foot for what we call rent, but it's not really. It's just a conduit for them to give us the money to pay their bills. We then take their money, we pay their bills with it, their taxes, their insurance, their water bill, an alarm system bill, appliance protection through DTE, all of that, we take their money and pay the bills for them. CAS takes care of the lawn and the snow removal once the folks are in. So it's a 7-year program. The requirements are that A, they live in the house, B, that they come to a homeowners meeting once a month, C, they work with a financial coach as needed, and some need it a whole lot more than others, so that's individual, and that they volunteer their time once a month, 8 hours once a month. If they do that for 7 years and have made it through the program, then at the end of the 7th year, we will give them the house. We have 3 residents right now that are a year and a half-ish away from owning their house. We're not exactly sure at the minute how that transfer is going to happen. The deal is that we don't want them to be stuck with a big tax bill. So we're working with lawyers to make sure that as we give them the house, they don't have extra bills. But then they will quit paying us their rent, and they will take over paying their own bills. They've given us the money to do that for 7 years, so we know they can. They have the money, they have the discipline, they know how to do it. Now they'll be paying their own bills to the water department and to the city for their taxes and to wherever they get their insurance. And so it's been a gradual home ownership program. We're excited that in a year and a half, some will own their houses. But we build 5 or 6 at a time because it's cheaper to build 5 than it is to build 1. We're starting 7 more in the spring. Contractors have to do everything up until the drywall is up and taped and mudded. Once everything is in and sealed, I take over with volunteers and we finish the houses, which means painting and flooring and cabinets and appliances and furniture and dishes and all of that. Towels. Everything that you would need to come in off the street and have a house. Our target population has been and most likely will continue to be folks that are coming out of foster care, people that have been homeless, seniors that can't handle their houses any longer and need something smaller, and people coming out of incarceration. So those 4 populations into our tiny homes. There's an application process right now. The applications are closed because we have folks that have already applied that we're working from. But yeah, that's what tiny homes is about. And we're now building the commercial buildings that would go along with a neighborhood, a restaurant, a grocery store, a car wash, the things that you would, a bank, the things that you would want in your neighborhood if you lived there.
And the homes are beautiful and they're unique.
Yeah, every single one is different. It's not like a low-income neighborhood where every house is the same and all have white vinyl siding and all have the living room in the same spot. They're all different on purpose.
They're in close proximity to the church?
They're not next to not to the church, to the social services. Yeah, Judy says, tell about the 1-cup car wash. It will be the first commercial building that we build. Why did we build a car wash first? It's not the most strategically needed thing in a neighborhood, right? You don't have to have a car wash. But we had the equipment and we have folks that need jobs, and it was a no-brainer. So, you know, when you drive through the car wash, and my car needs it right this minute, when you drive through the car wash, 130-something gallons of water to wash your car. You don't think about that, right? 130-something gallons, and most of it is not recycled. You go through some car washes and they make a big deal about they don't recycle the water, which means every car gets a different 130-something gallons of water. We can do it with a cup of water, 1 cup, because we turn it to steam. So the machine turns the water to steam, the steam cleans the car. It can be done by folks that were formerly homeless that live with us. It can be done by developmentally disabled that come that Monday through Friday skilled building program. So we can employ our own folks to wash cars and save the planet in the meantime. We are doing it as off the grid as the city will let us do the building off the grid. Hopefully opening sometime in the summer, late summer. Yeah, we hope to contract with fleets so that you know, whatever business comes in that has, you know, 8 or 10 vehicles, that they'll just schedule with us and we'll take care of that. So yeah, I'm talking a lot about Cass. Other questions? Must be 10 o'clock. Sure, I can. So Judy says, remind people about recycling. So our green industries, which is where we do a lot of employment of the folks that live with us and the folks from the developmentally disabled group. We employ them in green industries, recycling everything. The biggie well, 2 big ones. One is paper recycling. We operate a business like Shred It or Iron Mountain, but it's just Cass. We put bins in businesses or offices to collect waste paper. When their bins are full, they call and we go and get them, and we sort and shred paper. We also collect illegally dumped tires and make doormats out of them. We did do sandals for a while that became not cost effective, so we don't do them anymore. Okay, so,
I got one.
all right.
So, last year, we come and visited with you about the tool library, and just wondering what your thoughts are, what your plans are.
So about 3 years ago, we started advertising that we were going to have a tool library, mostly thinking of the folks that live in the tiny homes, because where do you put all your tools, right? If you live in a 250 square foot house, where do you put all that stuff? So we started collecting tools, and then we had a pandemic. So we haven't really gone very far with it. We have lots of tools because people brought us their tools. We're at this point trying to figure out how we're going to manage the checking out of those tools so that people can use them. We have been checking out lawnmowers to folks that want to, in the tiny homes, that want to mow their own lawn as opposed to having us mow it. So we've been doing that part. We haven't gotten to figure out how to check out a screwdriver yet, but we will. Now that volunteers are coming back and things are opening up a little more, we will do that. Just so you know, Cass runs a lot of their stuff with volunteers. Like I said in the beginning, 7,000 volunteers a year. In the year of 2020, when the pandemic hit, we probably had about 700 volunteers, grand total. Most of them came from January to the middle of March. From March to the end of the year, we had less than 100 volunteers, and I get it. I mean, we were all quarantined, right? We couldn't go anywhere. So I get it. But a lot of stuff got put off because of that. We didn't have people that could paint or that could go into somebody's house and repair a cabinet or whatever. So lots of stuff got put off. 2021, it was better, not great, better. We probably had about 1,200 volunteers. 2022, we're up to about 2,500 volunteers. We're not even close to our 7,000 yet. But the hope is that as we get farther and farther away from the height of the pandemic, that those volunteers will come back. And I'm sure that every organization that uses volunteers is in the same situation. It's not just CAS, it's everybody. So all of those people that we talked about as in the beginning of this, they are hurting. They are hurting for volunteers because the people haven't come back yet. People are still a little nervous. We get that. We still require masks in our kitchen. But you could wear a mask wherever you feel comfortable wearing a mask. If that's what brings you in and you feel you need to wear a mask, please do. The kitchen, the space is a little smaller, so we're requiring that. Every place else is a little more spread out, so we're not requiring it, but you certainly could. Volunteers are starting to go back for summer. I have 7 groups that I'm mailing stuff out to this morning. Usually it's more like 15 groups. So they're coming back, but not all the way back. So wherever you choose to be in mission, they're hurting. They're hurting for volunteers. We're not the only ones. Ken?
Yes, I did want to interject that we do have a comment on the YouTube stream. I'll just read it. It says, how about missions similar to junior achievement with the spirit of teaching and empowering youth? And I suspect that's a question of, do you know of programs like that? Or it could be a suggestion that that would be something needed in this area. Do you have any comments on that?
It's probably needed. I don't know of any in particular, though I do know that Alternatives for Girls does that, but with women, with young women. But I don't even know if junior achievement exists anymore. I mean, it used to be something that was in the schools and was an after-school thing. Yeah, I don't think it exists anymore, but I do know that Alternatives for Girls works with young women to do that. Probably Hope probably does it too. All right, so let me talk about one other thing. This is specifically for the Greater Detroit District youth. I've been trying to get this going for the last couple of years, and because we had that thing called a pandemic, it never actually happened. It's a week to come to CAS and serve in Detroit. And I know that most larger churches send their youth on mission trips in the summer. This is more directed at the smaller church, where you might have 1 or 2 youth that could benefit from being in mission for a week. We're going to do it together as a district, hoping to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 40 youth involved from all over the district, so that those kids that are in small churches where taking a group on a mission trip isn't really practical can be in service in Detroit. So I have those flyers. The week is June, it says 225, I guess I didn't catch that. June 25th to July 1 at CAS. You'll stay at CAS Church. It's $200, minimal fee. It covers everything, including, of course, a t-shirt, because if you go someplace, you have to come back with a t-shirt, right? So it includes it all. And also for those larger churches that might have that one kid that's really, really into mission, that has gone on the group mission trip, but wants more, this is for them as well. So you don't have to be affiliated with a large group. We are going to make the large group. I have flyers for each of you to take with you, and it's also online. It will be advertised on the district pages as we go forward, but I really would like to get that going this year. The Heritage District has done it now for a year. They're coming back this year. The Southwestern area has done it once, then pandemic happened, so I don't know if they're going to continue. But it's something that really needs to happen for those kids that can't come because they don't have a big enough contingent in their own church. They can join together and make that contingent. So these are here. That's really the last thing that I have to talk about. It's a little bit early to be done, but if you have questions.
age range on
Age 13 and up.
I Googled it. The junior achievement, it says that they're still up and running.
So junior achievement does still exist. It's on Google. So if you want to check that out, there you go. All right, that's it for me. If you don't have questions,
Thank you.
oh, Judy. So Judy's my prompter. Trading places or trading spaces. I always forget what we call it at CAS. But we have a group of folks, developmentally disabled and otherwise, that will go to your house if you are downsizing and take whatever you have extra. So you're moving from some big house into something smaller, or you're moving from your house into senior living situation, or perhaps someone in your family has died and they've left the whole house full of stuff. We will send people there, of course, for a fee, but we'll clean it all out and we'll vacuum on our way out the door. So keep us in mind if you're ever in that situation as well. All right, thanks for coming. I think Reverend Toddy has something to say, because he's...
I believe in sharing our story, which is what Jesus told us to do, to go and share and tell good news and post and tweet and all that kind of stuff. I believe Jesus said that when he said go. But if I could, if you're able and willing, I'd like to if you would take a picture with our presenter. Our pastor is here with us up in Arden Park, and I'd just like to take a picture with you. Can you do that with us?
Come on.
We can come together. I would go up near the stairs. There's quite a bit of light up there, and we'll get everyone in. The photographer never gets in the picture unless we do a selfie.
There you go.
I think if we just pull it back. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we just go right across those stairs. Some can get on the stairs. Have you ever been to Chuck E. Cheese to a birthday party? I guess you all aren't Chuck E. Cheese eligible, you know. There you are. Perfect if you're able. Yes. Perfect. Yes, everyone's involved. Yeah.